Great.
Cleveland Indians pitcher Trevor Bauer, one of the most sought-after pitchers in the MLB trade market right now. However, yesterday he got lit up and was pulled after allowing 8 runs in 4 innings. And when Terry Francona came to the mound to pull him, Bauer showed just a little bit of emotion.
Watch this. He turns and fires it. Thankfully, he threw it against the board, so there was nobody in the seats there to get hit with it. But you don't do that when your manager's coming out. It's disrespectful. So Francona's going, what the heck was that? And Bauer goes, my bad, Skip, I'm sorry. And he goes, go grab some pie, and I'm going to see you in a little bit. And so he's in the principal's office right now, and then let them deal with it. But the Royals, they frustrated him. They got some big hits on some of his best pitches, and so he's got to go.
Bauer's a crazy guy. I mean, prior to this, we knew Bauer was a little bit of a crazy guy. Yankees maybe considering trading for him, especially now since Stroman went to the Mets, oddly enough. But this is, I know it's on the takeaway, that's a hell of a throw, man. That thing went about 380 feet in the air that he threw it, clearing the center field wall.
Oh, yeah. I was glad that Terry Francona checked him, because I know Terry from our days over at another network and everything. That's the kind of person he is. Because he said, what the hell? What was that? Now, go sit over there on the bench. See, I like that aspect, because very few times, especially at that level, are you going to see the manager respond like that way.
And I've never seen a pitcher do that in response. Oh, you're going to take the ball out of my hands? Well, go get it. He was mad, man. It also wasn't his fault. Like, he had a center fielder drop a fly ball. He had an error on the thing. He was some bad luck.
I like that he had some pie right in the middle of the game. It's time for Stories to Start Your Morning, sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. Some terrible news for the Cincinnati Bengals. A.J. Green was carted off the field in training camp. He's out 6 to 8 weeks with a torn ligament in his ankle, making him unlikely to be on the field for Week 1 for Cincinnati. See your reaction to the news?
This is bad news. This is one of the classiest wide receivers we've seen in the NFL in the last 20 years. A.J. Green, it happens fast. Last year got injured. Now he gets injured to start the season. Is A.J. Green, after starting out a career, like one of only a handful of wide receivers where he was dominant those first 7 years? Unfortunate for the Bengals and their new head coach. They don't have one of the most consistent wide receivers, one of the best deep threats that we have in the NFL available.
Devastating for Andy Dalton's chances to start the year well in what I think is a very difficult division. You have the Browns, who should be really good. The Ravens, who won it last year, only got better with the addition of Earl Thomas and Lamar being a year older. And the Steelers, we know that they'll be at least 500, or they are every
those
year.
3 defenses twice without 8. Oh.
Man, and so, I mean, A.J. Green has kept that offense afloat despite what I would consider mediocre quarterbacking. This is a devastating loss for them early on.
Some bad news for the New York Giants. Golden Tate suspended for 4 games after testing positive for using a fertility drug. They've also already lost Corey Coleman for the season to a torn ACL. Sterling Shepard has a fractured finger, and there is no more Odell Beckham Jr. Boy, if only the Giants did have another top receiver to rely on. Nick, what do you make of what's going on with the Giants?
I mean, this is bad luck, bad fortune, bad decisions, all hitting the same position on the team, and the position that's going to be spotlighted because they traded away the best receiver, the most talented receiver in the history of their franchise. Evidently Golden Tate knew this was coming, He told the Giants about it, but not until after he had signed the 4-year deal with them. So there are little question marks there. But it's tough, man. They got no one to throw to except for our friend Evan Ingram for the first month of the season. I
think there's been other people in the league that have struggled with the same situation. But you are responsible, Jenna, for everything that goes into your body. 100%. They got doctors that will test it, and you got years of examples of what to do and what not to do. I understand trying to grow a family. It's one of God's commandments, but I'm just going to tell God, you have to wait till I get out the league. All right? I can't have no babies right now. That's a lot of money.
I agree with the first part of what you said.
It's a lot of money to bring a bad kid.
It's going to cost you more money.
Good news for Bobby Wagner. He signed a 3-year, $54 million extension with the Seahawks this weekend, worth over $40 million guaranteed. This makes him the highest-paid inside linebacker in football. See, put into perspective just how good Wagner is.
He is the quarterback. He's Russell Wilson of their defense. He's been underrated for a long time. He's been the best defender on that team for a long time. People talk about Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor. They always talk about the secondary. Bobby Wagner never got enough credit. You are not running the ball against Seattle. You are not throwing the short passing game. Why? Because of Bobby Wagner. He deserved this money, the $40 million guaranteed, because we've seen Earl leave without getting paid. Sherm leave without getting paid. Bobby stayed and got paid. Good for him.
And as they do in Seattle, very smartly done by John Schneider, the GM, in that he becomes the highest paid ever at his spot, but it's a short-term deal. He will be worth this money certainly over the next 2 years, which is really all you're committed to him on. And then if he continues at this level, he'll be up for another deal, so it works for both parties. I think more teams should emulate that. Pay the guy what he wants, but do it on a short-term basis.
There you go, Nick. Tell the teams what to do.
With a high percentage guarantee.
I'll tell the players what to do. You tell the teams
exactly
how to run
right. There we go. There we go. That'll work for this football
Speaking of
season.
two parties who both need a little advice here, finishing up with Ezekiel Elliot. He didn't show up to camp on Friday and continued to hold out throughout the weekend. According to reports, he has yet to counter the Cowboys extension offer. Could be a long battle between the two sides. So you see, is Zeke handling this the right way?
Well, he only had two choices, and that's either to hold out at the beginning or tell them, I need a new deal, show up to camp, but I'm not going to be here during the regular season. His ability to not be there, it puts instant pressure, regardless of what Jerry, Steven, anybody else says, because there's going to be some money passed out in Dallas this summer, and there's going to be a lot of it. And if I'm Zeke, like I said, you are in business for yourself. On your check, it does not say, you know, Amari Cooper's my teammate. Oh, you know, I got good offensive linemen. It says the Dallas Cowboys pay to the order of Ezekiel Elliott. That's the way the checks come. They don't come to, oh, you got to split them up. No. Man, they got a little sliver of pie, and I'm making sure that I get a piece of that, because I'm getting ready to touch the ball 450 times. This team revolves around me more so than any person. He is more important than the head coach. He's more important than the quarterback, and he's the best player on the team. And I know guys in the locker room, what do they ultimately respect? When you work hard and you perform and you get paid for it. I think that locker room will respect Zeke getting paid, because he has carried that team for 3 years.
Well, and I went back and read the comments from Stephen Jones this past May. And Stephen Jones said two things, both of which are probably getting him in a little bit of trouble now. We've talked about the one that he said, which is, we know we have to pay Zeke, but we've got a couple years to get that done. I'm sure Zeke heard that and was like, no, no, no. You got a few months to get that done. But the other thing he said in that same interview that I had forgotten until I read it this morning is, well, obviously the contract will start at Gurley and go from there. Well, Todd Gurley got 4 years, $58 million with $45 million guaranteed. He said to the whole world, it will start there and go from there. So I don't know, because it was reported this weekend the Cowboys made an offer to Ezekiel Elliott, and as of we sit here today, it has not yet been responded to. That logic tells me that means it was an offer they looked at and said, man, this isn't even worth responding to. Pass this back. So are they not starting at Todd Gurley and going from there? Are they presenting him as I think would be reasonable for an initial offer? Less than highest paid history of the league at your spot? Which maybe would be a credible offer if you'd have just kept your mouth shut.
Right.
But they talked about paying Dak. They talked about paying Amari. They talked about paying Zeke as the highest paid ever, just that he's going to have to wait. And so is he handling this the right way? If he has the stomach for it, if he is truly willing to go to the wall on this, meaning not just miss August, but go into September, that opening game against the Giants, and potentially not be there, if he's got the stomach for it, then yeah, because then I think the leverage will shift to him, because the Cowboys desperately need him. But where he wouldn't be handling this right is if it's only a half measure, is if he's going to sit out, and then show up still without getting paid and having lost his leverage. But it does not seem like that is, at least as we sit here today, his plan of action.
You think it's on the board that Ezekiel Elliott would be willing to miss games over the contract? Do you think it can get that far, or do you think these two, or will the Cowboys not let it get that far?
Well, I think there's some technicalities as far as the CBA, what he can do, what he can't do, what's best. Like, because there are some restrictions. If you are better off not coming than trying to come and then leave. We saw Julio Jones last year. He ended up showing up. Arthur Blank made him a promise. Julio still hadn't got paid yet, and we're another year removed. But Arthur Blank said that he's going to pay him. Is Zeke willing to go on a handshake agreement with Jerry Jones? I don't think so. Playing running back, I wouldn't do it. So I do believe that Zeke would not show up and be playing around, messing around. I believe he's serious because he's thought about this. This is not something he just woke up and said, I'm not going to show up to Dallas Cowboys. He knows how important he is, and he knows the message he sends right now is very important. I think Zeke will be there week number 1. I believe they'll come to some type of compromise.
And he also knows that Dallas did not plan for this, meaning here's the running backs on the roster. Darius Jackson's the only one who has any NFL touches. He has 6 carries in his career. And then it's 2 rookies, a 4th-round pick, Tony Pollard, and a 7th-round pick, Mike Weber Jr. They don't have, not that there's any great replacement for Ezekiel Elliot, but they don't have C.J. Anderson sitting there behind Todd Gurley.
Or James Conner, like what we saw last year in Pittsburgh, where you had Roethlisberger say, okay, well, we'll do with what we have. They really don't have the same situation.
There's certainly no one that is even close to proven, and Zeke knows, and his representation knows how critical he is and how critical this season is for the Cowboys as far as having this young core together.
All right, let's move on to the L.A. Rams now. Coming off a trip to the Super Bowl, but also coming off a trip home from the Super Bowl empty-handed. Rams looking, hoping to avoid the always dreaded Super Bowl hangover. A big factor there, the health of running back Todd Gurley. A season after getting a massive contract extension, there are still questions about what he can do and how well he can do it with his arthritic knee. Gurley says he's done talking about the knee.
I gotta stop putting this bad energy in my knee, man. Just let it be.
But are you eager to just kind of show everyone, that you're fine, and you're the same guy that you've been?
No, I'm not eager to do anything. I don't have to prove anything to nobody. I've been doing this for years now, so it's like it's the same stuff every year.
All right, Nick, does Gurley have to be in top form for the Rams to have any success this year?
Well, to have any success, maybe not, but to have a great year, to have anything close to what they were last year, which was 13-3 and in the Super Bowl, absolutely. He's the best player on their offense. He is the part of their offense that defenses have to account for each and every snap. That, to me, opens everything up for their quarterback. The Rams have told us, hey, man, Todd Gurley at full strength was worthy getting paid with 2 years left on his deal.